Hey everyone, my name is Christus and I am the lead developer of the game Doombringer, and I'm making this video to answer a few questions people had about the game, and mostly about its purpose, but also some of the features that can be seen in the previous videos we put out. To start off with, this is a game that is supposed to be a both multiplayer and single player experience. So people who enjoy the single player will be able to go to the multiplayer, or people who simply are only interested in multiplayer will have the option to do that from the start. We're currently focusing on creating a small duel-based game, though we have features like free-for-all and instagib in the game. The focus lies with creating a stable, solid dual product first and foremost, before we move over to creating the single-player aspect of the game, which is why all these aspects are blacked out for the moment, because there's really not much to be had there. To start with, we have the options, and we're trying to have a solid option screen with a lot of the customizations included, but these are not all of them. Some of them are still in the console, where you can adjust things like weapons placement on the HUD, for instance. Like now I have the game set to 100 FOV, and if I do the like if I use a default weapon position, that is what happens. That is what I see. But by putting in 20 here, I don't have to see the entire weapon, or if I put in 30 and maybe like that, I don't have to see as much of the weapons, which is nice. You can also use the alpha to make the weapons see-through, of course, which is always helpful. So you can have the weapon out, but it won't block your vision. But one of the biggest questions people asked about has been the Tesla curvature. This is the default setting of the game. It looks like you have to aim with the Tesla beam, which is not the case. It's still a simple range-based hit scan weapon, but you have the option to. But this is for dramatic effect, which I expect to be mostly used in single player, where you don't have to worry so much about dodging enemies as you do in multiplayer. You can, for instance, turn down the opacity so you can barely see it, but you can also, let's see, set it to slightly curved or completely straight, for those who prefer that. Another feature we've been working on, but is currently laying dormant because we currently don't have a dedicated programmer on the team who can actually manage this, is the bots. They are functional, but half finished, I would estimate them to be, which is unfortunate, but at least you have something to play with if you don't know who you should play with otherwise. One thing about them is they have absolutely perfect aim, but they also don't worry too much about strategy, so they'll give you a good fight simply by cheating. And that beep you keep hearing is a warning sound for when ammo runs out on your weapon. A bit about the weapons, by the way. Most of the weapons have been based on the idea from the Quake 3 originally, but has been rebalanced to suit the gameplay of this game instead. So while the rockets are more or less like in Quake 3, they do have a lot more pushback. You can really send your enemies flying with these rockets. The Tesla is a lot more powerful because simply because the lighting gun in this game is so much more difficult to connect with than in Quake Live, for instance. You will hit about half of what you're used to, or 2/3. So the Tesla does about 9 damage per cell hit, and you don't get as much ammo when you pick up the Tesla. So, and that's another thing. You don't get as much ammo with any of the weapons actually. You get, for instance, with the rail, you get 5 slugs when you pick it up the first time. If you pick it up again, though, anyway, and this applies to all weapons, then you don't get much ammo at all. You get about, for the rail, you get 1 slug for every railgun you pick up after the first. While if you pick up the ammo crate, you get 10, which is why there's an ammo crate there, so you actually can stock up on railguns. This makes for some interesting situations where a lot more of the weapons tend to get used, because you can often run out of ammo if you're not careful. So, but also the weapons only respawn every 15 seconds after being picked up, so it's a lot easier to deny weapons here than in, say, Quake Live, for instance. The shotgun is one of the most powerful weapons here also, so you need to be very careful against a player that likes to use a shotgun. It's also the slowest firing weapon, which has a fire rate of about almost twice 2 seconds. But it does about almost 150 damage if you manage to connect all the bullets in it. And unlike the reflex of Quake Live shotgun, it fires in 2 concentric circles, which means it gets a tighter spread along the middle, but on the sides it doesn't get much at all. Which also means that you actually have to aim it and not just. There's a great benefit to actually aiming the shotgun, but it's still best, of course, at very close range. The grenade launcher is still being worked on because it's a bit weak right now. It's hard to make the grenades fly properly, and we have the altar, which is technically a plasma gun. You can do small plasma jumps with it, which means that sometimes you can use the bolter to jump to higher places if they are not too high. You can also use it to self-damage if you need to pick up an armor. So, for instance, if we go to this map, Fuse, You can see here, like this, you can't jump up, but if I do use the bolter, I get up there quite easily. Another map that utilizes the bolter for that is Toxicity, where you can make a jump from the rail to the 50 health using the bolter in one jump. But it's a tricky one. Another thing you can move around is some of the menu HUD elements, like the clock. You can size it up and stuff like that to let you have the clock where you actually want it to be. But there's no HUD customization like you would expect from, say, Quake Live, where you can create your own HUDs. At least not yet. Maybe in the future. Depends on what happens. So that's been a little closer look at what Doombringer offers right now. In the future, like I said, it will be offering more focus on single player for those who prefer or find that interesting. I welcome you to join us on Discord and maybe get in on testing a bit. Have a nice day. Thank you.